YHWH versus Elohim. The hidden meaning of God's Hebrew name will shock you. In the vast expanse of human history and spirituality, few topics evoke as much curiosity and reverence as the names of God. These names transcend mere labels. They are profound revelations of the divine nature, each offering a glimpse into the infinite and mysterious character of the Creator. As we embark on this exploration, we're not merely delving into ancient texts or theological concepts, but rather entering a sacred dialogue that has been ongoing for millennia. The names of God are bridges that connect the divine and the human, allowing us to engage with the ineffable presence that permeates all of existence. In the Hebrew tradition, names hold immense power and significance. They are not just identifiers but encapsulations of essence and purpose. When we speak of God as YHWH or Elohim, we are invoking more than words. We are calling upon the very attributes and actions of the divine as understood by the ancients. These names have been whispered in prayers, sung in worship, and contemplated in silent meditation, each time drawing the seeker closer to the heart of the divine mystery. The journey into understanding these names is not solely an intellectual pursuit. It is a heartfelt exploration that invites us to listen with our souls and respond with our spirits. Each name carries with it a unique resonance, an invitation to experience the divine in a personal and transformative way. As we unravel the layers of meaning behind YHWH, the sacred tetragrammaton, and Elohim, the majestic plural that hints at a complex unity, we open ourselves to a richer understanding of what it means to engage with the divine. This exploration is not just about knowledge, but about transformation. It is about allowing the divine names to speak into our lives, to shape our understanding, and to guide our spiritual journey. As we delve into the profound mystery behind God's names, we invite you to join us in this sacred quest, to discover the depths of divine identity, and to weave these timeless truths into the fabric of your own spiritual life. Number 1. The Sacred Whisper. Understanding YHWH in the Hebrew context. In the heart of the Hebrew language lies a name so sacred and profound that it is often spoken of as the tetragrammaton. This name, composed of 4 Hebrew consonants, is more than just a designation. It is a whisper of the divine, a breath of holiness that transcends the barriers of time and culture. To the ancient Israelites, YHWH was not merely a name to be uttered casually. It was a sacred identifier of the God who revealed himself as the eternal I Am. The significance of YHWH is first unveiled in the encounter between Moses and the burning bush in the book of Exodus. When Moses asks God what name he should use to describe who sent him, God responds with, "I am who I am." Exodus 3:14, this self-designation captures the essence of God's eternal, unchanging, and self-existent nature. It is a name that speaks of being and presence, a reminder that God is always with us, never bound by the constraints of time or human understanding. In the Hebrew tradition, the name YHWH was considered so sacred that it was not spoken aloud. Instead, the term Adonai, meaning Lord, was used in its place during readings of the scriptures. This practice underscores the reverence and awe surrounding the divine name and invites us to approach God with humility and respect. The name YHWH encapsulates the mystery and majesty of God, inviting us into a relationship that is both deeply personal and profoundly transcendent. The Psalms, rich in spiritual expression, frequently call upon YHWH, reminding us of God's faithfulness and love. In Psalm 23:1, NIV, we hear the comforting words, "The Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing." Here, the use of YHWH as the Lord is a powerful testament to God's guidance and provision. It assures us that in the sacred whisper of His name, we find solace and security. Furthermore, YHWH is a name that beckons us to listen and be still. In the quiet moments of prayer and meditation, We can almost hear the sacred whisper of YHWH calling us to deeper communion. The prophet Isaiah captures this beautifully, declaring, "In repentance and rest is your salvation. In quietness and trust is your strength." Isaiah 30. The name YHWH invites us to rest in God's presence, to trust in His unwavering faithfulness, and to find strength in the quiet assurance of His love. Understanding YHWH in the Hebrew context is not merely an intellectual exercise, it is a journey into the heart of divine mystery. It calls us to embrace the sacredness of God's identity and to recognize the profound ways in which He reveals Himself to us. As we ponder the sacred whisper of YHWH, may we be drawn closer to the one who is eternally present, eternally loving, and eternally God. Number 2. Elohim, the majestic plurality of God's nature. When we delve into the name Elohim, we are invited to explore a profound mystery embedded within the very nature of God. Elohim is a name that appears over 2,500 times in the Hebrew Bible, and its use is both intriguing and revealing. Unlike many singular names of God, Elohim is plural in form, yet it is most often used with singular verbs, suggesting a complex unity that speaks to the depth and breadth of God's essence. This plurality within unity is not merely a linguistic peculiarity, but a window into the divine nature itself. In Genesis 1:1, the Bible begins with, "In the beginning, God Elohim created the heavens and the earth." Here Elohim is presented as the creator, embodying both the singular authority of the divine and the multiplicity of God's creative power. This opening verse sets the stage for understanding God as one who encompasses all possibilities, all potentialities, and all dimensions of existence. The plurality of Elohim can be understood as a reflection of God's multifaceted relationship with creation. It hints at the richness of God's attributes and the diverse ways in which God relates to the world. For instance, in Genesis 1:26, we find God saying, "Let us make man in our image, after our likeness." The use of us and our suggests a divine conversation, an internal dialogue within the Godhead that further emphasizes the communal aspect of God's nature. Elohim also speaks to the inclusiveness of God's identity, encompassing both majesty and intimacy. In Psalm 19:1 we read, "The heavens declare the glory of God Elohim. The skies proclaim the work of His hand." Here, Elohim is portrayed as the majestic creator, whose grandeur is evident in the vastness of the universe. Yet this same Elohim is the one who knits us together in our mother's womb. Psalm 39:13, demonstrating a tenderness and care that is deeply personal and intimate. The majestic plurality of Elohim invites us into a relationship that is both awe-inspiring and deeply personal. It challenges us to expand our understanding of God beyond the limitations of human language and thought. As we reflect on Elohim, we are called to embrace the mystery of a God who is both one and many, who transcends our understanding yet is intimately involved in every aspect of our lives. In our spiritual journey, calling upon Elohim can be a powerful reminder of the vastness of God's love and the depth of His wisdom. It encourages us to trust in the divine plan that is greater than our immediate understanding and to find peace in the assurance that we are part of a larger divine tapestry. As we meditate on Elohim, may we be drawn into a deeper awareness of the divine presence that permeates all of creation, inviting us into a relationship that is as vast as the heavens and as close as our own breath. Number 3. Names with purpose. The transformative power of divine identity. In our journey to understand the divine, the names of God serve as more than mere labels. They embody His essence and reveal His character. The Bible is replete with instances where God's names are not just identifiers but are deeply interconnected with His actions and His relationship with humanity. These names carry transformative power, inviting us into a deeper understanding of who God is and who we can become in Him. Consider the name El Shaddai, often translated as God Almighty or the All-Sufficient One. This name first appears in Genesis 17:1, where God reveals Himself to Abram saying, "I am El Shaddai. Walk before me and be perfect." In this context, El Shaddai is not only a declaration of God's might, but also a promise of His sufficiency and provision. Abram's faith journey, marked by the covenant of becoming Abraham, is a testament to how embracing the identity of God as El Shaddai can transform lives, filling them with purpose and promise. Another profound example is Jehovah-Jireh, meaning the Lord will provide, found in Genesis 22:14. In this narrative, Abraham names the place where God provided a ram as a substitute for Isaac. This name encapsulates the deep trust and reliance on God's provision, even in the most testing circumstances. It serves as a reminder that God's identity as our provider is not just a past event but a continuous promise. Each time we call upon Jehovah-Jireh, we are not just recalling a miraculous provision, but drawing ourselves into the reality of His ongoing faithfulness. The name Jehovah Rapha, which means the Lord who heals, is another powerful aspect of God's identity that brings transformation. In Exodus 15:26, God declares, "I am the Lord who heals you," following the Israelites' deliverance from Egypt. This name invites us to experience healing not only in a physical sense but also emotionally and spiritually. It speaks to the wholeness and restoration that is possible when we align ourselves with the divine source of all healing. These divine names are more than historical artifacts. They are living expressions of God's nature that invite us into a transformative relationship. In calling upon these names, we are not only recognizing who God is, but also declaring who we are becoming through our connection with Him. As we meditate on these names in our prayers and worship, we open ourselves to the profound changes they can bring, reshaping our identities and aligning our lives with God's divine purpose. In reflecting on these names, we find that each one is a facet of God's infinite nature, revealing His love, power, and presence in our lives. They remind us that God's identity is not static, but dynamic, actively working to transform us and the world around us. Embracing these names with purpose, we step into a deeper, more vibrant spiritual journey. Number 4, a heartfelt journey. The spiritual significance of calling on God's names. When we call upon the names of God, it's more than just uttering words. It's an intimate act that bridges the gap between the divine and the human. Each name of God carries a rich tapestry of meaning and emotion that invites us into a deeper relationship with the Creator. In the Scriptures, we often see the power of invoking God's names in moments of need, gratitude, and worship. For instance, in Psalm 102, David proclaims, "The Lord is my rock, my fortress and my deliverer. My God is my rock, in whom I take refuge, my shield and the horn of my salvation, my stronghold." Here, by calling upon God as his rock and deliverer, David expresses his trust and dependency, revealing how the very act of naming God becomes a shelter in times of trouble. The names of God are imbued with profound significance, each reflecting an aspect of His nature and character. When we address God as Jehovah-Jireh, we remember the provision He made for Abraham in Genesis. It reminds us that God sees our needs and provides, instilling in us a sense of security and faith. Moreover, calling on God's names can be a powerful tool for transformation and healing. In the quiet moments of prayer, whispering the name Jehovah Rapha, the Lord who heals, can bring comfort and hope to a wounded heart. As Exodus 15:26 tells us, God promised the Israelites, "I am the Lord who heals you." This name reassures us of God's healing presence in our lives, whether it pertains to physical, emotional, or spiritual ailments. The act of calling on God's names also deepens our spiritual journey. It moves us beyond the superficial, encouraging us to focus on the nature of God and his relationship with us. When we address God as Abba, Father, as Jesus did in Mark 14:36, it draws us into a close, familial relationship with him. It reminds us of our identity as beloved children and the intimate bond we share with our Creator. In our daily lives, invoking God's names can transform ordinary moments into sacred experiences. Whether we find ourselves in gratitude or in search of strength, calling upon God by name can anchor us, fill us with peace, and align our hearts with His divine will. As we journey through life, these names become a spiritual compass, guiding us and reminding us of the eternal presence of God in our midst. In embracing the spiritual significance of God's names, we open our hearts to a deeper understanding of who He is and who we are in relation to Him. This heartfelt journey is one of discovery, trust, and profound love, drawing us ever closer to the divine mystery that is God. There's one of discovery, trust, and profound love, drawing us ever closer to the divine mystery that is God. Number 5. The intersection of heaven and earth. How YHWH and Elohim speak to our souls. As we journey through the divine names of God, we find ourselves at a profound intersection, where heaven meets earth, a place where the sacred whispers of YHWH and the majestic presence of Elohim touch our souls. This meeting point invites us to explore how these names resonate within us, echoing the divine essence in our own lives. The name YHWH, often translated as Lord in our Bibles, is a name that signifies God's eternal presence and faithful commitment to His people. It is a name that speaks of intimacy and covenant, a reminder of God's promise to be with us always. In Exodus 3:14, God reveals Himself to Moses as I am who I am, a declaration of His eternal and unchanging nature. This name invites us into a relationship grounded in trust and faithfulness, assuring us that God is both near and constant. Elohim, on the other hand, reflects the grandeur and majesty of God. It is the first name of God we encounter in the Bible, appearing in Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God Elohim created the heavens and the earth. This name emphasizes God's power and sovereignty, His ability to bring order out of chaos, and the vastness of His creative spirit. Elohim reminds us of the divine majesty that permeates all creation, calling us to stand in awe of the world around us. Together, YHWH and Elohim speak to the duality of God's nature, intimate yet infinite, personal yet powerful. They invite us to experience God both as a close companion and as a transcendent creator. When we call upon these names in prayer, we open ourselves to a deeper spiritual experience, one that bridges the divine and the earthly. Psalm 19:1 says, "The heavens declare the glory of God. The skies proclaim the work of His hands." This verse beautifully encapsulates how God's presence is woven into the fabric of our world, inviting us to see Him in the wonder of creation and feel Him in the quiet moments of our lives. As we meditate on YHWH and Elohim, we are encouraged to recognize the sacred in the everyday, to find God in both the grandeur of the cosmos and the gentleness of a whisper. In calling upon YHWH, we draw near to the heart of God, embracing His love and care for us. In invoking Elohim, we acknowledge His greatness and the mystery of His ways. These names are not merely titles. They are invitations to enter into a profound relationship with the divine, where heaven and earth converge in our spirits. Let us open our hearts to the whispers of YHWH and the majesty of Elohim, allowing these divine names to speak into our lives, guiding us toward a deeper understanding of the sacred connection we share with our Creator. Through this intersection of heaven and earth, we find a path to spiritual fulfillment, a journey that leads us to the heart of God. Number 6. Beyond words, the emotional resonance of the divine names in prayer and worship. When we speak of the names of God, we are tapping into something that transcends mere language and ventures into the realm of the heart. In prayer and worship, these names are not just utterances, they are gateways to divine intimacy. The name YHWH, often vocalized as Yahweh, carries with it a sense of the eternal presence of God, an assurance that we are never alone. In moments of prayer, when we whisper or even silently acknowledge this sacred name, we invite the very essence of God's eternal nature into our lives. As Exodus 3:14 reveals, God said to Moses, "I am who I am." This name encapsulates the ever-present nature of God, inviting us to rest in the knowledge that God is with us in every moment. Similarly, the name Elohim, which is often used in the context of God's creative power and majestic sovereignty, brings a sense of awe and wonder to our worship. When we lift our voices in song or silent adoration, acknowledging God as Elohim, we are reminded of the divine orchestration of the universe. Psalm 19:1 expresses this beautifully. "The heavens declare the glory of God. The skies proclaim the work of his hands." This declaration is not just an observation, but an invitation to join the cosmos in a symphony of praise. In both personal and communal settings, calling upon these names can evoke profound emotions. There is a mystery in how these ancient words resonate with the deepest parts of our being, gently drawing us into a closer relationship with the Creator. They serve as reminders of God's multifaceted nature, the intimacy of YHWH, who knows us by name, and the grandeur of Elohim, who holds the universe together. In prayer, when the heart is weary, speaking these names can be like a balm. The comfort of knowing that YHWH, the I Am, is with us provides solace and strength. In worship, when words fail, simply resting in the presence of Elohim can fill us with peace that surpasses understanding, as Philippians 4:7 promises us. Ultimately, the divine names are more than words. They are an emotional and spiritual connection that transcends time and tradition, inviting us to experience God's presence in new and profound ways. As we embrace the mystery and allow our hearts to be moved, we find that these names become a personal and powerful part of our spiritual journey. Number 7. Embracing the mystery, finding personal meaning in the names of God. As we explore the divine names, we are invited into a profound mystery that is both expansive and intimately personal. The names of God, such as YHWH and Elohim, carry with them a depth that transcends mere labels or titles. They are gateways into understanding the nature of the divine, and perhaps more importantly, our relationship with it. Finding personal meaning in the names of God begins with an open heart. Each name reveals a different aspect of God's character and invites us to engage with the divine in unique ways. YHWH, often interpreted as I Am, calls us into a relationship with a God who is ever-present and unchanging, a reassurance amidst life's uncertainties. In Exodus 3:14, when God says to Moses, "I am who I am," it is a powerful declaration of God's eternal presence and faithfulness. Elohim, on the other hand, introduces us to the majestic plurality and creativity of God. This name, appearing in the very first verse of the Bible in Genesis 1:1, "In the beginning God Elohim created the heavens and the earth," speaks to the complexity and richness of God's nature in the universe. Elohim invites us to see the divine not just as a singular entity, but as a being of infinite facets and dimensions. In our spiritual journey, these names can become personal anchors. They allow us to call upon God in our moments of need, joy, and reflection. When we say the name YHWH in prayer, we are not merely invoking a deity, we are reaching out to the timeless presence that knows us intimately. Similarly, calling on Elohim can connect us to the creative force that is woven throughout our lives and the world around us. The beauty of engaging with God's names is that they can transform our understanding and experience of the divine. They provide a language that helps us articulate our faith and emotion. As we meditate on these names, they become part of our spiritual vocabulary, enriching our prayer life and deepening our connection with God. Psalm 9:10 reminds us, "Those who know your name trust in you, for you, Lord, have never forsaken those who seek you." This verse beautifully encapsulates the trust and intimacy that can develop when we embrace the mystery of God's name. It encourages us to seek God with the assurance that each name holds a promise of presence, power, and love. Ultimately, finding personal meaning in the names of God is about allowing these names to resonate within our hearts and lives. It's about seeing them not just as ancient words, but as living expressions of the divine that speak to us today. In doing so, we weave the divine tapestry of YHWH and Elohim into our spiritual lives, enriching our journey and drawing us closer to the heart of God. Conclusion: the divine tapestry, weaving the YHWH and Elohim into our spiritual lives. As we reach the conclusion of this exploration into the divine names of YHWH and Elohim, we find ourselves standing on sacred ground, where language meets the ineffable and where our souls touch the divine. This journey has been one of discovery, revealing layers of God's character and presence through names that carry profound significance. Each name unfolds a different aspect of God's nature, inviting us to deepen our understanding and enrich our spiritual lives. Our exploration began with YHWH, the sacred whisper of the Hebrew context, a name so holy that it is spoken with reverence and awe. YHWH, the I Am, speaks to God's eternal presence and unchanging nature, reminding us of the steadfastness of divine love and faithfulness. We then delved into Elohim, the majestic plurality that hints at the complexity and richness of God's being, emphasizing both the unity and diversity within the divine essence. Throughout this journey, we have seen how these names are not mere labels, but active participants in the divine narrative. They are transformative, capable of shaping our identity and guiding us through life's challenges. As we call upon these names, we engage in a heartfelt journey, aligning our spirits with the sacred and opening ourselves to divine guidance and comfort. The intersection of heaven and earth is made manifest when we invoke YHWH and Elohim, as these names resonate within us, bridging the gap between the human and the divine. They speak to our souls, offering peace, strength, and a profound sense of belonging. In prayer and worship, the emotional resonance of these names becomes clear. They carry with them a weight of history, tradition, and personal meaning that transcends words, allowing us to express our deepest desires, fears, and hopes. Ultimately, embracing the mystery of God's names leads us to a place of personal discovery. We find meaning not only in the names themselves, but in the journey of seeking and understanding. This quest is reflective of our desire to know and be known by the divine, weaving YHWH and Elohim into the very fabric of our spiritual lives. As we continue this lifelong journey, let us remember the words from Isaiah 43:1. "But now, thus says the Lord, who created you, O Jacob, and he who formed you, O Israel. Fear not, for I have redeemed you, I have called you by your name, you are mine." And from Psalm 8:1, "O Lord, our Lord, how majestic is your name in all the earth." May we carry these truths in our hearts, allowing the divine names to guide us, comfort us, and lead us ever closer to the heart of God.